is originality even real at this point?
Here's another, even going back a further layer. Does it even matter? If you're making art and art's to tell a story, does it matter for the people that are enjoying your art?
Good question.
How original it is.
I guess the piece that matters most is if you are knowingly drawing too much influence or, quote, again, stealing from other people, that might create erosion for your soul.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't help you in your inspiration in longevity.
Yeah.
So can we even address that? Why, for the dreamers out there,
yeah,
the people that think big,
yeah,
why couldn't I create a whole new genre of music?
How do you prove that someone intentionally did that versus unintentionally did that?
Yeah. Music doesn't exist in a vacuum. Yeah. I'm wondering if you dropped a person on an island by themselves and they found themselves making music, what would it sound like? And they never heard another record. And I'm hearing the thoughts of some listeners right now going, but is that going to produce a good song? And it's like, that's not.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Do it for the love of the game.
Yeah.
Like, just enjoy the idea that you're going to challenge yourself by trying to write a song in 3 minutes or try to write a song on an instrument you've never played before.
Yes.
And that's just fun.
Yeah.
Like, enjoy it.
Hey, Kamo.
Hey, David.
I thought it'd be really fun. We're going to jump into some stuff about inspiration versus originality.
Yeah.
All that. There's a lot of interesting thoughts in this. I wanted to start off with something fun.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're going to play a game. It's only going to be like 3 minutes. So if you're a listener, you can just skip ahead to the inspiration part if you don't want to hear something fun.
Yeah.
What we're going to do is we're going to blind rank 5 pop stars.
Okay.
I know the list.
I know all of these pop stars?
You know who they all are.
Okay.
I have them all in front of me, but you're just going to hear one name at a time, and you have to commit to where they are 1 through 5, and you can't change it.
I'm literally going to nail this.
Okay. And then at the end, we're going to see how close your gut was.
My actual.
Yep. Yeah. All right. So 1 through 5, 1 being best, 5 being still great, but not the best. Because these are all 5 great artists.
Yes.
Beyonce.
I'm going to say, I want to give Beyonce a 4. The 4 spot.
Okay. Harry Styles.
5.
Okay. Also, just to be clear, you're just ranking them on how you like them.
Yeah.
Not influence or anything like that. Just how you like them.
This was like...
No, just how you like them. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I'll still go with those answers.
Yeah. Because I think that could change things, but we'll do how you like them.
Yeah.
If you still feel good, Beyonce 4, Harry 5.
I do.
Okay. Ariana Grande.
Yeah, she's the 3 spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Billy.
Oh. 2.
Ed has to be your 1. All right, so if you're gonna go back,
oh wow,
how would you rank those?
Okay, I would say probably, yeah, I would actually, I'd probably put Beyonce at number 1 of all those artists.
Yeah. I was gonna say I feel like you were way off on that one.
And then Harry.
Yep.
And then Ariana Grande, then Billy, then Ed Sheeran.
Wow. So the only one you got.
Almost the opposite.
Yeah. Ariana's the only one you got in the right spot. Anyways, just thought it'd be fun.
Yeah.
We might do that again with some other things later.
I should totally do that with you. That's
down the
fun.
road. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. I should have chose some intentionally really bad ones in there too.
You should have.
Yeah. Because then you would have no idea where to put them. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. But anyways, today, lead us through, Kamo.
Yes. Well, first off, we're in a new studio, if you guys haven't already noticed. We have, we're in a new studio space. We're not in David's office space that was 2 by 5 feet.
Wow. 80 square feet.
So it's nice to have a lot more space. We're not like, our legs aren't like touching right now, which is great.
Yeah. We have room to have more people in interviews.
Yeah.
Room to shoot things at different angles.
Yeah. More room to have more instrumentalists for recording purposes. So it's really exciting stuff. And we hope that it's visually more pleasing to you guys as you watch this. But yeah, this topic is going to be inspirations. And really, it revolves around the conversation of how much do I draw inspiration from other people and how much am I stealing from other people? Is original thought or original creativity even a real thing? We're going to be talking about that. I think that's really helpful. I think a lot of artists struggle with, am I plagiarizing or am I stealing melodic or lyrical ideas intentionally or unintentionally?
There's even a spectrum of how artists feel.
Yeah.
Like, I know some people that want to feel like they're as original as possible, and they don't like anything that reminds them of something else.
Yes.
It's like almost like a moral issue.
Yes. Yeah. And we want to address that so that we can help people kind of better gauge, like, when they're writing or creating, what feels right and what doesn't feel right. So
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think we'll have a lot of fun thoughts about this. I think there's going to be a lot of questions that you can't answer because it's going to be a little subjective.
Yes, this is a very abstract thoughts that we're addressing, but a fun one nonetheless.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yes. Okay. The first question, and this is a crazy difficult question.
Yeah.
Is originality even real at this point?
Yeah. I guess it depends on what you mean by originality.
Yeah, we can define terms if we want to.
Yeah. Because I'm just thinking off the top of my head, like, if originality is making something that's never been made that exact way before, there's probably still some room for originality. If originality is making something that has no other inspiration, I would say no.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. I do think you have to define originality. I do think, like what you said earlier, there are a lot of people that have this desire to create something completely new. And I think, just all cards on the table, that's just not a thing.
Yeah.
Like, to create something that hasn't, quote, been done before ever, is not necessarily realistic, in the sense that you're not doing something that isn't influenced by somebody else. There's a large conversation being had by all of us artists and all of us creatives where we're drawing influences from one another. And there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
So
here's another, I guess, even going back a further layer, does it even matter? Like, if you're making art and art's to tell a story, does it matter for the people that are enjoying your art?
Good question.
How original it is?
I think so, because I think the point of art is not necessarily that you're just telling a story. It could be, but it's that you're telling your story. So in some sense, there has to be some originality in the content of, I'm sharing my story, which is unique to everybody else.
It is, but like, the themes are transcendent. It's kind of like, if you've ever like looked at storytelling from like books and movies, there's usually like an arc that they a lot of times follow.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's a hero, but the hero usually meets a guide.
Yes.
The guide helps the hero. And there's always like this, there's a couple of main story arcs and how they're kind of built. So it just is interesting, because it's like, yeah, it is your story, but like, the themes are all universal.
Yeah. So your question was, does it even matter?
Yeah. Like, if I'm listening to a song and I really like the song, does it matter how original that song is? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I guess from my listener's perspective, as long as I don't care, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If I cared, I guess it matters.
Right.
But
yeah, I guess not for your listeners. But then your listeners are going to point out whether or not, if they can,
the ones that care, yeah,
the
ones that care, like, oh, this sounds just like blah, blah. But other people might just be like, yeah, I just love this song. I don't know. It's interesting.
If it's overt enough, of a steal, then a lot of people might care, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. We've seen this before with other artists and examples of it, which we'll get into later.
Yeah. Because that's also so interesting, is like, how much of that is like accidental versus on purpose. But yeah,
I think no. I guess it doesn't matter a whole lot to the audience as much as it does to you, and I guess that,
or the person that felt like they got ripped off.
Yes,
that would matter. Yeah, which we're gonna talk about that as well. But okay, so
sure.
The question.
Well, so before that, I just wanted to say, like, I guess the piece that matters most is if you are knowingly drawing too much influence, or, quote, again, stealing from other people, that might create erosion for your soul.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't help you and your inspiration in longevity.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's interesting. I've always been on the standpoint that everybody's creative.
Yeah.
Which is not something that is universally agreed upon. But in my argument, like, my mom would say, hi, Mom. She would say, like, she would say she's not a creative person.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you watch that woman organize a closet, and it's creative. Like, she thinks of solutions that I would never have thought of before.
Sure.
Now, she's not going to make a song. That's not her form of creativity.
Yeah.
But if she wants to, she can collect a bunch of ideas and thoughts and then she can uniquely solve problems in a unique way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like that's creativity.
Yeah.
So, okay, going back, I feel like everybody is creative. And a big part of that creativity is collecting a lot of information and then making a decision, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm getting really like abstract in that. But
Sure.
if you break that down for like songwriting, like you've collected a lot of lyric ideas, melody ideas, chord ideas, production ideas over the span of your life. And then you're putting them all together in a moment. And to solve a problem could be one way to phrase it, but to solve the problem of I want to make a song that does this.
Yeah.
Or moves people like this.
Yeah.
And so
or
again,
says this.
you're drawing upon all these options and things that you've heard. And that's where I'm like, when I'm in a meeting with a bunch of people and it's like a creative meeting, like I want to hear a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Like give me a lot of stuff because it actually helps me put together like a final product.
Yes.
It doesn't help me if like there's no ideas floating out there and it's like,
for sure.
Hey, I have no idea what the rest of the team is thinking, but I have to come up with a solution.
Yeah, for sure. I think that is a really healthy way to view inspirations. You're using other people's thoughts and ideas as a good starting point for then taking your original thought further. So
yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I think on like a bigger scale, like what we were saying, how you're defining these terms, are you going to write a new chord progression? Probably not.
Probably not.
Are you going to write a completely brand new melody? Probably not. Now there's going to be shifts in it, and there's whole like, I don't even know the standard that is with chords right now with how much of your melody has to differ. And like, I'm sure that's rhythmically and note wise and like how those notes in the melody play off the harmony in the chords. Like, you're not going to create something completely new.
Sure.
There's going to be nuances in all those things. Like, you're not going to create a new genre of music, but you're probably going to you could tweak things that have already been done.
Yeah. Can we even address that? Why, for the dreamers out there, the people that think big, why couldn't I create a whole new genre of music? Because some people are that ambitious.
Yeah.
I want to do something completely new, blaze my own trail.
Yeah.
And is its own thing separate from what's already been done.
Yeah.
Holistically.
I think, and this is not the answer that an artist would want to hear, is math. I think there's just only so many combinations of what we have.
Yeah.
If you look at a music scale in Western music, now this is different with other cultures, but in Western music, you have 7 individual notes.
Yeah. In a major scale.
In a major scale. But a minor scale is those same 7 notes.
Yeah.
Now, harmonic minor versus natural minor, one of those notes might be slightly different. Modes are actually, again, the same notes. They're just shifted on where the home base, the tonic is of the scale. So all that to be said, you only have 7 notes to play with. Now, if you break out of the major scale and you start adding more chromaticism in your music, which you can do as well, then you have 11?
12.
Well, not counting the octave.
Oh, yeah.
You have 11.
Sure.
So it's like your combination is very small.
Yeah.
And when we talk about like chord progressions, most people only use 4 of the 7 options of the major scale chords. Now you can do borrowed chords and all that, but again, you only have those 7 notes to play with. So it's not a lot of options. Times that by the fact that music's been around for a really long time.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of songwriters. There's a lot of volumes of work out there. I mean, we should have looked it up. I would be surprised how many songs are released on Spotify every single day.
Yeah.
It's probably an astronomically high amount.
Yes.
Every single day.
Yeah.
And so it's like all those things are just flooding the space. So that's why I think it's really hard to say, hey, I want to create something completely original. Math isn't on your side in that.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of options, but there's a ton of volume of work.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I guess I'm just wondering, when you zoom out on history, new genres have been created really close to us in time. Like rock is not even 100 years old.
Okay. I think this is great.
Hip hop is only 30 years old.
How much though does technology play into that? So like in the grand scope of human history, technology has moved way more in the last 100 years than it ever has before. And it's opened the doors for new things that we didn't have. So like you couldn't have hip hop in the 1800s.
Sure.
I mean, I guess you could have.
Can you imagine?
So technically, I guess you could have like the same ideas behind hip hop music played on instruments in the 1800s.
Wait, now I want to hear hip hop music, but classical.
Yeah. You might have to try to like create that. Yeah.
All right.
I feel like modern hip hop even still does lean on orchestral instruments.
For sure.
But there's still always some electronic.
Yes.
You want that kick to have a certain feel and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyways, all that to be said, it opened the door for a lot of different types of instruments. You like look at rock music. Well, like rock music, like electric guitars being distorted through amps is very important. We had electric guitars. We had clean amps. It took us a while to figure out that you could overdrive them to get a distorted sound.
Yeah.
And then it takes a while for people to come around to like, oh, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Like, let's use that sound. You know, and then you get like past the 70s and 80s and you start getting all these synthesizers and like you start getting like digital synthesizers. And now it's like, we can create so many sounds.
Yeah.
So I guess I struggle to see a future where there's like a ton more different instruments. Like I feel like we've kind of maximized our instrument potential. And I say that because of modern synthesizers, you could tweak them to sound like anything. So like you could take a synthesizer, make it sound like a guitar, to a piano, to a drum, and like any spectrum of experimental sounds. So I don't know how much is left for us to like invent instrument wise. And I think the instruments helped drive those genre changes. They were a part of it.
Fair. I guess there were people that were saying the same thing 100 years ago, and they found themselves shocked at the technological advances and the creative advances therefore.
Yeah.
And I just feel like,
but could you have if you had given them a guitar, that they could make sound like any sound they want? Do you like that's like the would that have been true then? Because like they didn't have anything that could change its sound like we have.
Yeah, I guess I'm saying that I think people across time, Brad Cooper would call it chronological snobbery.
Yeah.
Where we always think we've hit the max, we've optimized in what's available to us.
Yeah.
And the reality is that's almost like never actually true. As time keeps advancing, we are going to keep advancing.
Yeah.
Moore's law and then creativity. Like I imagine 100 years from now, the genres will not all be the same.
No. I think they're going to slightly tweak over time.
Okay.
But I struggle to foresee like a completely new genre. Because like right now, like there's weird genres out there.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest.
Yeah, like alternate stuff.
Yeah. And like you could be like, I want to listen to like weird ambient space alien music.
Yeah.
It's out there.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I just struggle to see like where could we go with the combination of what we have, the notes that we have, that's going to break the mold that much.
Yeah.
And I go back to like why we did break the mold a lot in the last 100 years is because technology gave us the option to have sounds we've never had before.
Mm-hmm.
I think at this point in history, we have machines that can make any sound that our ears can hear.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no possible new things left. Does that make sense?
I think so.
So it's like if we were to invent a new instrument in 100 years, we actually have the capability to produce that sound now.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't know if we've explored every creative angle of it, but like we have that capability now. Whereas like you go to the 1800s, they did not have the capability to make a distorted guitar sound then.
But they didn't know that.
They didn't know that, but they literally like, we know what we can hear, like scientifically.
Yes.
Like we know the spectrum of range that our ears can hear. And that's how like synthesizers work is you can play a sine wave and then you can mess with the harmonics and you can change the timbre of that sine wave to then sound like a guitar string.
Yeah.
And then you could change the envelope,
mm-hmm.
the attack, the sustain, the release, the decay. You can change the envelope of it and you can make it sound like a pluck.
Mm-hmm.
You put those two things together, the timbre of the harmonics of the sound plus the envelope of the pluck sound, you now have just created a guitar sound.
Yeah.
But like our ears could always have heard that sound. We just didn't have a machine that could create it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I feel like we have machines that can create anything that's possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know.
No, I think that has a lot of merit. I don't know. I just always wonder. I'm like, what is the next thing? Like, what if there is like a new instrument creative that's a variation of an instrument that we've already made,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's just so intriguing, and again that word like so transcendent to us and
Mhm.
what we're hearing that blazes a new trail, I guess, for a new genre or whatever, because the guitar, like similar to how the guitar or electric guitar blazed a new trail for rock.
But also think about like in the last, we didn't even mean to go on this tangent.
I know.
Think about the last 100 years. Like before that, we really only had like kind of, I mean, it was like one genre for every couple 100 years.
Yeah.
Like now there is nuances in it for sure. But like now we just classical music was like classical music. Now, back then there would have been, more nuances, but it wasn't like today, all of a sudden 100 years, you have like explosions of all these branches of genres with blues and then rock and hip hop and pop and then indie and alternative and folk. And it's like, boom, explosion.
Yeah.
But in the last 20 years, 30 years, 2025, 1995, how much new genres have we seen?
Yeah. Not much.
Not much. Now we've seen like tweaks. People have introduced stuff like, hey, it sounds really cool when you sample a vocal and then you add reverb and delay and you chop it up and you play just parts of it. That becomes a part of pop music, but it didn't like create a new genre that's like known for that sound.
Yeah.
So
all main genres are sealed for the rest of history.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I don't know. Maybe not.
I find that really interesting. I've never thought about that before now.
Now, if someone in 100 years goes through this videos and archives it, we'll know.
That would be dead.
Yeah. No, but that's interesting. Yeah.
Okay. Another question I wanted to get into, or the topic I wanted to get into with this, is the legal ramifications.
Yeah.
We don't know a whole lot about this, but I did do some studying before this podcast.
Yep.
Apparently, I don't know how much you know about this. Apparently, there are legal ramifications around copyright, specifically with lyrics and melodies, which is obvious. But chords, yes, you can use chords. Chords cannot be copyrighted. And there are different outcomes for if like lawsuits are in place. So different ramifications could be that you lose rights to your music. Obviously, fines are a thing. And then we've seen some interesting cases where people have gotten away with that kind of thing by finding loopholes, by using their influence.
Yep.
So, for example, Olivia Rodrigo, she got accused with her Sour record of stealing melodies and compositional ideas from artists like Paramore and Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
And what she did, instead of being sued or accused of that, was she just gave them writing credits.
Yeah.
So that's
which I'm sure they had to agree to.
They had to agree to. You can't.
I'm sure
just,
that was a negotiation.
To be clear.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying she used her influence. Like they agreed to them having writing credits, so that all would be well.
Yeah.
So I find that really interesting, but
I think it's so hard because how do you prove that someone intentionally did that versus unintentionally did that?
Yeah. But I guess
I like, okay, if you use ChatGPT to write a history paper, or you just copy someone else's history paper, like your teacher can look through it and be like, man, 95% of the words are the same. There's not a statistical probability that this happened.
Yeah.
Like again, hate to
this
talk about
happened on
math.
accident.
Yeah, like this couldn't have happened on accident.
Yeah.
Based on the statistical probability of how much shared words are. The hard thing with music is, again, we're going back to like only a couple of combinations of things.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm like, if I write a song and I didn't even know about this other song that it sounds like, I just love the way it sounds.
Yeah.
That's a huge probability.
Yeah.
Like statistically, that could happen. How do you prove that I didn't know that I was plagiarizing?
I guess what I found out was that it doesn't matter if
I know it doesn't matter.
You didn't know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy.
But you're saying from the optical standpoint of like what people perceive you're doing.
Well, okay. So maybe I'm just too black and white. I feel like a law is made to protect someone.
Yes.
So this law is meant to protect you from having someone steal what you've made and make a profit off of it.
Yeah.
But if someone didn't know that their song sounded like yours, is that stealing?
Yeah.
Like, what if Olivia had never heard that Paramore album?
Yeah.
And it just happened that she wrote a song that sounded very similar. You're laughing, but how possible is that?
Yeah. It's possible.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard people write something and I'll tell them like, oh man, that's like just like this other song. And they'll be like, what? And I'll like send them the song. I'm like, I've never heard that song in my life.
Yeah.
Because again, there's only so many combinations. And how much are we like micro influenced by that whole genre as a whole? So like genres like to play on things. So like rock music, a lot of the melodies share more similarities within that genre than, pop music. There's going to be like more common melodies. So just because I haven't heard that Paramore song, but because I really like rock music, there's a chance that like I'm going to be influenced by the same people Paramore was. So it's just so hard. So again, I go back to like, it's tricky because to me, the law is supposed to protect someone.
Yeah.
On the flip side, it also feels like it's a lot of really wealthy, big name people that are going after smaller people. And it's like, doesn't it seem like the inversion of what the law was meant to do?
That's an interesting thought.
Doesn't it feel like the law is meant to protect me from writing a song and someone like a Taylor Swift monetizing off of it?
Yeah.
Than like me writing a song that accidentally sounds like something she has and she's already like mega wealthy and it doesn't matter to her.
Yeah, I guess the protection for them on their behalf would be that if they let this happen once, then so many people are going to try to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So I get.
And I'm not saying they shouldn't be protected as well.
Sure.
I'm just saying what I hear is like big name artist is going after someone small.
Yeah. Because the story that you want to fight for is somebody small making something and then somebody big copies them and profits off of it.
Yes.
Which is not good.
Yeah. And I wonder too then, like that brings up a good question. How much is someone like a Taylor Swift when she writes something? Does she have like lawyers present in her sessions
that would suck.
That are like thinking through like, oh no, like that'll get you like above the threshold of like too similar to something else?
I hope not.
I hope not either.
I hope that's not anybody's experience, but I'm sure that's some.
Yeah, and that's where I feel like we're in like a really odd time in history.
Yeah.
Where we've heard about some of these bigger cases, like an Ed Sheeran case. There was one with Prince. Wasn't there one with Prince and someone else?
I think so, but I'm forgetting.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
But there's always like every year or two, there's always a really high profile one that comes out. I'm sure there's so many that get settled.
Yeah.
And people are, paying off someone or giving them a credit. I'm sure there's a lot of those.
Yeah.
It just makes it to where it's like, I get like discouraged.
Sure.
Like if that happened to me, it would be very like deflating.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, well, shoot, what do I do now? Like, I can't have someone like full time that just runs my music through a checker to check against everybody else. I guess that'd be like a really good business. So if someone starts that business, I want credit.
Honestly. But there has to be some line, right?
Yeah.
Because I could just steal the lyric and melody of a Taylor Swift song.
Yeah.
And that would be plagiarism.
There is
a line somewhere.
Okay. I agree that
we don't know where it
morally, if you intentionally do that, that's not good.
But
hang on the grand scope of things though.
Yeah.
You tell me people are gonna like flock to your song over Taylor Swift's song. I'm like, I'm sorry, that's not gonna happen. So it really doesn't hurt her.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I guess that can also happen unintentional. Math, right?
Yeah.
If there are millions, hundreds of millions of songs out there.
Yeah.
It's not unlikely that I could steal somebody's lyric and melody of at least a chorus.
Yeah.
Which is also problematic.
Yeah. And I think you alluded to this earlier, you used very strong language, erosion of your soul.
Yeah.
I think it erodes your fans.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think if you just started copying John, like you love John Belling. Mm-hmm. He's a big inspiration of yours. If you're like, man, like I love that melody. I'm just going to like use it and just slightly tweak it. I'm going to use some words that use like your fans, if they started to catch on, they're out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, especially because your fans probably also like who you're inspired by.
Yeah.
Like that's our whole thing. Like, oh, if you like music that sounds like this, check me out. Yeah. So like they're not going to be for that.
For sure.
So I feel like if someone tries to copy Taylor hard and intentionally does it, I don't think it's going to be for their benefit.
Yeah.
I feel like you can only get away with it if it's an accident and it still aligns with like who you naturally are as an artist.
Yes.
And that's where I think like, okay, we've made this comparison many times. I just think it's really clear. Like Lorde comes out with music.
Yes.
Billie Eilish a couple years later comes out with music that
Very
shares some things with it,
Mm-hmm.
but no one cares because it was still really original to Billie.
Yes.
Even though it wasn't original to the world.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Which you might be one of the few people that have connected those dots. Which it's a really good thought.
I'm sure a lot of people have. But
you think so?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But I go back to like.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's just very interesting.
Yeah.
And then what part does like a producer play in all this? Because then it's like you listen to Justin Bieber's album and like Jonas Brothers' album. Well, they're both produced by John Bellion, and like his production and writing, you can feel it in the melodies and chords. Like there's a couple of times in my life that I've heard a song from a pop artist and I'm like, I bet John wrote this. Because you could just tell it's a him melody.
Yeah.
But then it's like, can like Justin Bieber go after the Jonas Brothers, but they both shared a writer on there? I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's all very interesting.
I don't think people, what I'm saying is I don't think people care as long as it fits the artist. If you're ripping off someone and people feel like you're stealing, they will care.
Yeah. No, that's a really good thought. So to zoom in, make this more practical for the songwriter, I think the point also of inspirations and being specific about your influences is putting common language around where you draw inspiration from. So even with what you just said, I often have to have this conversation with artists of like, hey, before we start working together, I would love for you to send me 5 songs that you're influenced by or that this song was specifically influenced by. That way we have common language and ideas and thoughts around what we want the song to sound like.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever explicitly said this to me, thankfully. But I can tell there's some discomfort around that conversation because a lot of people don't. They
feel like they're original.
Yes, they feel like they're original, and they feel like drawing those songs is taking away from the originality.
Yeah.
And so that's not what's happening. And in fact, even from those 5 songs, as we're working on the song, I'm not going to be like, oh, I need to steal that thing that Justin Bieber did in that reference.
You're not thinking, hey, they sent me this reference with this bass line in it, so I'm going to make something super similar to it.
Yeah.
It just gives you a genre vibe to go for.
Yes, it puts it in the conversation with other songs. Like, I want this song to live on the same playlist as 5 other songs. Kylie said that once about a song. We were having a conversation about a worship song, which worship is another big topic because a lot of people claim a lot of worship music sounds the same, which there's definitely a lot of truth to that.
Yep.
And I also think there's merit on the side of like, hey, music's supposed to sound the same. It's within the same genre. Not similar. That's how you identify music within a genre. But some people some instrumentalists that we were working with had some issues with the fact that we were drawing references. And it's like, yo, we need to know what field we're playing on. We need to have common language. Otherwise, we're going to come in with a bunch of different ideas that do not relate to one another and do not gel well together. So these 5 songs are not for us to be like, let's make it sound like these songs. It's just to put language and common thoughts and bring unity to what we're trying to do. So, yeah. And so the same is true for lyrical ideas where you can draw even mechanics from other songwriters. So I love, for example, I love Lizzie McAlpine, who I don't know if you listen to her very much. I forget. Yeah, but she... I just love the way she writes. The way she talks about specific ideas and like lyrical concepts in her life. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to steal that line, but the way she talked about her life, I want to talk about my life a similar way.
Yeah.
Talk about it from that angle. And I think artists can do the same thing. And I think you can feel great about that.
Yeah.
Where you're using a template of songwriting to tell your story. And it's going to be a completely different work and may even be better work because you're building upon what they've done. You're running because they ran or because they walked.
Yeah.
So
I do think, I guess, if you had every resource at your fingertip as far as like financial and time, you could just like go lock away in a cabin. And if you had the ability to like dream up your own ideas and just chase them down, you could make something without any kind of reference. The problem is when you're inviting someone in.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
When you invite a producer in, a mixing engineer in, when you're which most people need to.
I was just about to say,
99% of people need to.
Yes.
It's good to have common language. Something I thought that's interesting too is like you could have common language that's not even music.
Mm-hmm.
So Charlie Puth, he about one of his records said that like he kept envisioning like a Miami hotel in like the 70s with like sun coming through like early morning and like the like really like white see-through curtains,
blinds,
like blinds hanging out. And he's like, it just gave me like this really warm but bright like pops of color, but it's still like a warm morning. Like, and he used that language to describe what he was trying to do with his music.
Yeah.
I don't think you can do that in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Because I have worked with artists that like, that's all how the only way they communicate.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting over here like, okay, I need some like practicals.
Yeah.
But I do think it can help enhance even more communication about what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. This even gets me wondering, music doesn't exist in a vacuum. Yeah. I'm wondering if you dropped a person on an island by themselves and they found themselves making music, what would it sound like? And they never heard another record.
Ukulele, steel drum.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about Michael Scott.
No,
I'm just curious. Like, it probably would just candidly, it wouldn't sound good. It wouldn't sound pleasing to the common listener.
Yeah, I wonder though if like you didn't have a background of much stuff, if it would just end up feeling very like singer-songwritery.
Yeah,
singer-songwritery. Like a one instrument and one voice. And like almost a little like folksy. Because like what else are you going to sing about? Like you're trapped on an island.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like you wouldn't be like sitting there like I'm going to make hip hop beats.
No.
Do you know what I'm saying?
No.
Like you would be using music as like a meditative tool.
Yeah.
To like get through your experience.
But it almost just feels like it would be primitive. It feels like it would be very held back and not as up to date musically to the standard that we hold. Because again, there's been a conversation of history. I'm drawing on thousands of years of musical inspiration, not just people immediate to me.
I get what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. If it was like a person who's never heard music.
Yeah.
They're missing out on a lot of the things that we've learned and been inspired by, for sure.
But that's how people think they are making music, is within a vacuum, uninfluenced by the rest of the world. And that's just not the case.
Yeah.
And that is okay. You're not any less of an artist or a songwriter just because you're drawing influence from people and getting a good starting point from the thousands and millions of people that have come before you. You're
actually part of the club.
Yes.
And I think that's important to note. Every songwriter is a songwriter because they also love music.
Yes.
And if you love something, like you've feasted on it. You've had a lot of it in your life.
Yes.
And then this becomes like an overflow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like you don't become an author, but you hate reading books.
Yeah.
Like if you become an author because you're like, I love reading books.
Yeah.
And I've read so many books that like, I think I could share some things about me or my life or an idea that I've had through this medium that I love so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you're entering in on the conversation by writing and by making your own compositions. So there's actually a lot of beauty to it that you can't overlook just because you're trying to make something, quote, completely original.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thought that you had that I think is just great to talk about, I like talking about this, is how much should you study versus just write?
Mm-hmm.
So you're a songwriter, you want to get better at songwriting. I am actually of the camp that like, not only should you study a lot, you should try a lot of different things, and you might never stick with that thing you tried, but it might help you with your main thing. So that was a lot of I'll use the word thing a lot.
Sure.
It's trying to be very broad because this can apply to anything.
Yeah.
For example, with like photography, there's many different ways to compose an image. Like just to be real clear, you could have like a really bright image or you could have like a dark and moody image. So say you're someone who always takes dark and moody images, you should occasionally have a day where you're like, I'm going to take some bright pictures for today and just see what happens. You might never do it again, but you actually might steal some ideas and thoughts and things that you learned through that part of the journey for your main craft. So it's like, you might be a hip hop artist and like, I only do hip hop music. It's like, hey, try doing something that's different than what you've ever done. You might take those ideas and incorporate them in what you do. You might also find something else that you love to do, which is like super fun. So I think sometimes that's like a fun way to do it. So it's like, not only should you study and you should learn how different music operates and why it works the way it does, why it connects people does, you should then experiment yourself and almost like challenge yourself.
Yeah.
I think it's like, well, shout out Kylie again.
Great.
Like Kylie is a self-professed, not an amazing guitar player, but she'll write a song on guitar because she says it gives me something extremely different.
Mm-hmm.
And like you've experienced this because you're mostly a keyboardist, but you've worked with guitarists, and it's like, man, if it just changes everything.
Yeah.
What instrument you start a song with. So if you're a songwriter, write a song in a different genre. We've talked about this before. We have a whole blog post about this. Write a different order than you normally write.
Mm-hmm.
If you normally write a melody first, start with chords first, or start with lyrics first. If you normally always play piano, try to play guitar. And if you really can't play guitar, find a guitarist and just tell them the chords and just see what they come up with. It's going to be very different than what you've ever thought before. So it's like, give yourself little challenges.
Yeah.
Try to write a 3-minute song. Try to write an 8-minute song. Write an instrumental song.
Yeah.
Think lyrically differently than you've ever thought before.
Yeah.
If you always write first person, write third person.
Totally. And I'm hearing the thoughts of some listeners right now going, but is that going to produce a good song? And it's like, that's not
It doesn't
point.
matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Do it for the love of the game. Like,
Yeah.
just enjoy the idea that you're going to challenge yourself by trying to write a song in 3 minutes, or try to write a song on an instrument you've never played before.
Yes.
And that's just fun.
Yeah.
Like, enjoy it.
Yeah. And you might get a new tool for your tool bag, and
Yeah.
you might not.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's better than just doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting the same result. Insanity, Albert Einstein, all the things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember I didn't start writing until I was in college. I tried writing when I was in high school, and I tried just writing. Like a lot of other people, they picked up writing, didn't really know much about it, didn't study it when they were like 12 or 13, and it was great for them, and they were just able to like do the thing. But for me, it was like trash.
Yeah.
Don't like this. I had no idea what I was doing, and I needed to break down the mechanics of songwriting to really get into it. So I took a survey level songwriting class freshman year of college. Shout out Dr. Han.
Yeah.
Who we both know and love. And he broke down all the basic mechanics: melody, rhythm, like even just differentiating between monophony and polyphony. Right. And at first it was boring, but it was like, wait, like, no, when I'm writing a song, I need to know how each of these things work individually, so that when I'm writing, like, it can all come together and make this beautiful piece of work that tells my story. And I just didn't even know. Like, I had no idea that I needed to focus on either thing. So honestly, I need to get back to those roots sometimes when I'm writing, because I'll try to do it all at once, or I'll try to like just riff it, play the chords at the same time, write a melody, write a lyric all at once. And it's like, why don't I just focus on the lyrics without thinking about the melody for a second, or just focus on the melody, playing out a melody on the piano first rather than trying to think it. And just even understanding how those work mechanically took me a long way, as opposed to just writing.
Yeah.
Though obviously the practice of writing consistently in and of itself is really important as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So I think to wrap all this up, I think there's always going to be some mix of originality and inspiration.
Yeah.
Those words are very hard to define. You can still be original with having a lot of inspiration, because what is actually being original is you telling your story, or sharing your thoughts, your feelings, or sharing an idea that you have. That's what's original.
Yeah.
What's never going to be original is going to be the chords, the melody 100%, the instruments that you use. Like, that's just very hard. And to what point?
Yeah.
Like, why should you fight for that when instead you can fight for, like, how do I tell this story really well?
Yes.
How do I share this in a way that's really going to connect with people? I think that's way more important than being original.
And when that's your focus, it just so happens to be that you're going to be original anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it'd be really easy to overthink it. I guess don't overthink it.
Yeah.
You should write things that you care about and that you love. You should be okay with the fact that, like, you're going to be inspired. You can't hide from inspiration.
Yeah.
And like, sometimes it's good to just lean into inspiration. Have certain types of music playing, or surround yourself with images that are going to help you create the work that you want to create. Like, that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's art is allowed to be done together. You talk about this all the time. It's a bigger conversation between a lot of artists throughout the history of time. It's okay to like be inspired.
For sure. Another little tidbit is if you think you might accidentally be stealing, because this happens to me a lot.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, this sounds like a song I've heard before. I'll share it with a friend.
Yeah.
Or several friends, and they'll either confirm or deny. Because sometimes I am just tripping myself out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then other times friends point out, oh, yeah, it sounds like this. And I'm like, crap.
Yeah, yeah. You're like, that's the exact melody.
I have to change it.
Yeah.
But I feel way better about changing it than, again, the erosion for my soul or like the lack of integrity I feel by just moving forward if I feel that feeling of like, am I stealing from somebody? So invite other people into the process to make sure and safeguard what you're doing.
Yeah.
Sick. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun to hear like our listeners what they use for inspiration.
Yes.
What artists do you guys use for inspiration? Do you guys use art for inspiration? Movies? Like, let us know. I'd be curious.
Comment below. See y'all.